welcome to another edition of College Football on Tap. I'm one of your hosts, Bruno Ogier, and today we got Ross with us. Ross, how you doing? Thanks for joining on with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Always happy to fill in. I feel like ever since I started with On Tap, when I do this, it's like the reverse Tony Romo thing, where Tony Romo does football and then goes and plays golf, and now golf guy occasionally comes on and fills in football.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who might not know, Ross joined on with the team a couple of weeks ago, and he's writing articles for a golf team. He has a nice one that he just put out, I believe, yesterday about John Rahm's the function to the Live Tour from the PGA Tour. Nice little read there, and that's an interesting situation. So if you really like your golf, I definitely suggest you take a look at some of the stuff Ross has put out there. I think he's had 3 or 4 articles now. They're all really good reads. Awesome to see you kind of doing your thing and getting into your own there, Ross.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun, and there's a lot more coming because it looks like the floodgates just opened. What a time
Yeah,
to get hired! What a time to get hired to write golf.
yeah, seriously. I saw that Tony Finau is possibly going to defect over the next couple of days or so. I mean, that's
and and now they
crazy.
lost they lost their number one source of funding and sponsorship for next year. It's all gonna follow me and watch me write. I'll tell you all about it. It's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's the way that sounds. But this isn't a golf show, unfortunately. Even though I'm sure me and Ross could go on about that as well. But yeah, definitely continue to check out Ross's stuff and check out the golf podcast that On Tap does as well. As like Ross just said, things are getting really interesting in terms of the world of golf. But going into it, me and Chris haven't been on our normal times this week. He's had a couple of issues with kids and now getting overtime. We're both kind of in busy seasons at work. It's been crazy. So I'm glad that we're able to get in here on a Saturday. The day after the award show yesterday, which that has its own fallout that we'll kind of get into. Today's obviously the traditional Army Navy game. I really do always enjoy watching this game. One thing to kind of look out for when it does come to this game, though, is that besides last year, as last year it did go over on a bunch of fluky stuff that happened in the game. This game has gone under the last 16 years in a row previously. So you might want to put the under bet in today just before the number keeps on getting lower and lower, just because that's just what these two teams do. But it's kind of got that grueling pace of football. They play in the cold. It's a good one to watch. So
It's the one game a year that you can look forward to where it's just going to be old fashioned football the way it was designed 100 years ago. They're just going to run the ball down each other's throats all day. If you see a pass, you literally like, wait, did they just throw the ball?
yeah, it's honestly like
Or
both
you have to
quarter.
do you have to do a double take every time. Like, did he actually throw the ball that time? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you literally might not see 10 passes from one player on either side or 10 passes combined from both sides in this type of football game. Um, unless one gets down big. Uh, but yeah, it's always been a fun one to watch. Both of the uh sides, the Naval Academy and the Army, they both have their fans show up, and both sides of the stadium, it's sold out. It's just it's one of those traditional games that's just ridiculously fun to watch. The crowd's into it. They're both going at each other. Typically, this would be a game because they're both 5 and 6 coming into it that you would see them competing to go to a bowl game, but that's not really what the case is here, as they kind of already decided all the bowl games and whatnot.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I mean, like it's always a game that's very defensive. It's gonna be a running fest. There's not much else to really analyze about the game in terms of they're not the greatest of football squads, but it definitely is something to be enjoyable to watch, and I'll put some shells on it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're all Americans. You sit back, watch these teams kick each other's ass all day, try to run the ball down their throats. just hard-nosed old school football. It's one of those games you just look forward to, where if this was every single week, no one would watch, but everyone tunes in for this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is the last week because I think, well, we do got bowl games starting next Saturday. There's quite a few on. I think there's like 6 or 7 next Saturday, but outside of that, the NFL starts playing their Saturday games as well next week. So this is kind of one where they lay off. The NFL doesn't get their fix of trying to take over the world in every single day of it, every single time frame of the day. As they kind of let this Army Navy game go ahead and play. I believe there's quite a few FBS games if that's your thing to get into, or FCS games if that's your thing to get into with
Uh,
that.
there, there, there- there's a couple noteworthy ones on that, I'll probably have in the background and flip around and see. But I mean, Army Navy's going to be on for the majority of the afternoon for me. But it's always fun to mess around and jump in, see an FCS matchup. I think there's like North Dakota State for South Dakota. Is they always seem to run into each other at some point during like this time of the year in the playoffs,
Yeah.
which typically, those are two stacked programs at that level. So that's always kind of a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I got a guy that I work with that went to South Dakota State, so he's big into this time of year. I mean, he actually played at South Dakota State, I should say, him and his brother.
Jackrabbits.
Yeah, so um, is that what they are? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, okay, yeah, I do remember from basketball actually.
It's actually I would say for a smaller program, it's up there with one of the top mascots logos.
Yeah, definitely. A jackrabbit's badass. But yeah, yeah, normally I have soccer on right now, but I know I'm gonna start flipping around some college basketball games here shortly, as that's kind of what I get into this time of year. I have quite a few bets that I put down on that, and I've been really good at betting that, which is awesome. But yeah, you know, it's that time of year where we get these bowl games, and a lot to do with these, a lot of the, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like the tradition of the bowl games has really been kind of taken out of it this year, and the previous years, as we got all these opt-outs, and now even more so as we have transfer portal, and the transfer portal is absolutely freaking wild right now. Like it's every minute. Even before we just jumped on, we just got the news of Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. Dylan Gabriel was a Heisman candidate early on in the season. He was someone that I was thinking about throwing some money down on. And now Oregon's going to get him next year for their first season in the Big Ten, as Oregon just continues to have quarterbacks all the time that are probably going to go to NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the state of college football has changed, and I think this is until they kind of straighten out the NIL thing. I think this is just going to be the norm of every single year. You're going to have the guy that's played 2-3 years at one school is going to put himself in the portal and basically make himself a free agent, and he's going to pick the team that had a great run the year following, lost their starter, whatever, but they're loaded and ready to go, and I'll just plug myself in there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's literally, I mean, we should be seeing Cam Ward within the next couple of days picking his team. I think that he was down to 4 teams, USC being one of them. So another school that's going to the Big Ten. We got Riley Leonard likely going to Notre Dame, is what we're hoping, as I got a Duke hoodie on right here.
Yeah, I was seeing rumors of looking at like McCord going to like Miami.
That's an interesting fit. I think Miami's an interesting fit for him with Van Dyke leaving after this season to go. I mean,
Well,
I don't think he's made a choice yet either, but
honestly, when I saw that, just as a rumor, I looked at it, and based off what he did at Ohio State with that offense and everything, I found the Miami offense seemed to kind of be a good fit for his type of game, where I don't think he's the guy. Obviously, he had the 3,000 passing yards, all the touchdowns, but he just didn't seem to really fit into that system too well for them. But he seems more like a game management quarterback not the
definitely.
guy, not the guy that needs to throw the ball 40 times a game.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I saw Miami's offense. I think that's a good fit. Personally, if that's where he chooses to go, I think he'll be a solid game management quarterback and maybe able to turn around. Um, Obviously, Miami's had their ups and downs, but I think that would be a good fit there overall.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's honestly the best way to kind of put it is like he just kind of seems to have that Miami mold to him where that might be a much better fit just because Ohio State and especially in order to win now with these schools that are coming in, it's got to be more of a you're constantly putting up points kind of conference. And even though you're going to have those tough defenses like Penn State, what Michigan's able to do, but Michigan's able to put up points at the same point. Ohio State needs to continue to be able to put up points, and you can't have that game management style in the Big Ten anymore. At
Well,
least,
Well, I mean, Ryan Day had basically did the press conference addressing Kyle McCord entering the portal and kind of just told him, he sat him down and was honest with him that he was looking at bringing in a portal quarterback that he thought was a more prototypical fit for the Ohio State offense. Pretty much told, Kyle McCord that this is nothing against you. Like you can stay and you can compete, or you can go somewhere that you fit a system better. And he looked at his options. He made a relatively quick decision and said that he's going to go to the portal. That he knows that there's other, because there's nothing against Kyle McCord. He had a great season overall. I mean, sorry, Michigan kicked his ass. That's plain. That's plain and simple. But overall, for his season performance, there's nothing shabby about it. It's just there's probably a better fit and better prototypical offense for the type of quarterback mold he is.
yeah, absolutely. And with that, it's kind of interesting this week. Marvin Harrison Jr. has come out and said that he hasn't made a decision in terms of leaving Ohio State. He might stick around because of what the NIL deal is for him, basing in the range between 20 and $25 million, which, that's basically he said the same amount of money that he can make that he'll make a year in the NFL. So why not stick around for one more year because he really passionately wants to beat that Michigan team, or the way that he put it, that team up north. So it's interesting to kind of look at Kyle McCord leaving Ohio State because those two have played throughout high school together, winning 3 state championships together in high school. They came to Ohio State together, and they kind of had that camaraderie together. So you would think that maybe like McCord being there would be a reason that Marvin Harrison Jr. would want to stay, but now his buddy's leaving, so that does give him one less reason to want to stay. But it will be something to kind of look out for. I mean, I find it hard to believe that he won't go to the NFL, but it is that possibility as well. And that's just another part of what the NIL deals can do is like you can make more money in these situations. Like, you heard the Caleb Williams rumors of him sticking around earlier in the season, but at the end of the day, they're going to go to the NFL most of the time, but the NIL will definitely change some things for you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to be surprised in the next couple of years to see them kind of develop a rule for the portal with NIL about like these players sitting out the bowl game once they get there,
Yeah.
because it's not exactly the game that you want to be in. And I totally understand. Like if you have an NFL future, whatever, it's only one more chance for me to get hurt. But I will not be surprised to see limitations go on NIL where, oh, we'll give you this money and you come here, but you are playing every game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could see that happening because look at these. I mean, look at these bowl games. Even like, you know, it, how do you even analyze how to like bet on these games because you don't know who the heck's going to be playing. I mean, like the teams that Notre Dame play in Oregon State, like they literally have nobody that is going to be playing from Oregon State. Like if
Yeah.
Notre Dame loses that game, it's going to be a really bad check mark on Marcus Freeman because at least he'll have some players like that are even like second stringers at Notre Dame should be more up to the task than what Oregon State's most likely putting out there from the sounds of it because they are just a program in disarray due to it being in a Pac-2 right now. But they're losing everybody, and it sucks that you have to go into these bowl games and just kind of be like, well, I mean, these guys are barely even suiting up a what would be a 53-man roster in the NFL. They're putting together like a 36-man roster out there because everybody left for the transfer portal and going everybody's gone. Like and nobody wants to play. They're going to the NFL. Like it's crazy to me what happened in these bowl games. And I don't know if you could put in some sort of rule in terms of the bowl games, like in terms of jeopardizing the kid's future or whatever it may be. But there's got to be something, like at least make the transfer portal something that doesn't come into effect until after bowl season, so that everybody's not gone and these games even have less meaning than they already do.
Yeah, I mean, especially because look at all the programs. Like, if you just watch the transfer portal this week, there's so many programs where you can't even scout and analyze or bet a bowl game right now because it's like, oh, this team is 7-5, 8-4, whatever. Well, their quarterback's gone. So uh, great. And that they got to 8-4, 9-3, whatever. They don't have the guy that got them there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it's going to be with Oregon State. That's what's going to be with. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that have, like we've said already, have left. You got Van Dyke from Miami. You got Riley Leonard from Duke. Um, you got Dylan
Pretty
Gabriel from Oklahoma.
pretty sure DJ's in the portal already.
Yeah, DJ's in the portal. Like, I mean, every big name quarterback that's not going to the NFL has pretty much already entered the transfer portal and is already picking their new school before the bowl games even start. Like, I mean, we'll probably know for sure if where Leonard is going this week. We'll probably know where Cam Ward is going this week. And the bowl games don't even start until next Saturday. Like, we still got this Army Navy game today that's technically part of the regular season. And that's the last regular season game of the year, and we're already seeing everybody gone. Like, I'm not playing this bowl game. I'm not doing this. And I mean, in a way, it is kind of more fun to watch the NIU versus Arkansas State bowl games of the world because they don't have as much of that leave, and they still have a lot more of that talent still there.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be funny when we get to like around the New Year's bowls, because they're going to be showing these people on the sidelines not dressed that they've entered the portal, and it's like, oh, Kyle McCord's probably going to be on the sideline for Ohio State, fully knowing he's probably already enrolled in classes at Miami.
Yeah. I mean, even if they do show up for that, I mean, you don't even know if they'll be there at this point. It's just kind of like
I just want to
done with
see
it.
it. I just want to see ESPN put up the graphic and just for fun and be like, oh, Kyle McCord's season, blah 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 for Ohio State, and then just tack on currently studying finance at the University of Miami.
Yeah. If that's something that they do, I mean, that I'm sure that it will be mentioned in like every freaking game that there is. They'll constantly be saying like, "Oh, well, this is the quarterback who got them here, but now he actually goes to Oklahoma, and this was the quarterback that got them here, but now he's going to Miami, Ohio." And you're just like, "What? Like, how did this happen? What's going on here?" Like, it's stupid.
Quarterback Kyle McCord, 3,000 pass yards, 30 something touchdowns, currently listed number one on the depth chart for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah. I mean, geez, like it's wild to me like that this is what it's kind of become because like me and you both kind of agree and or share the same opinions in terms of being kind of traditionalist with it all and enjoying growing up with our families and watching certain bowl games, certain games in general, like this one today, like just certain things that were always kind of just traditional for us. And so much of that has gone out the way when it comes to college football, which not all of it's bad, not all of it's good. It's just it's different. It's all changed. I see we got Wes in the back there. So what's
Yeah,
up,
he's got
buddy?
to check himself out on camera every once in a while.
Yeah, well, I feel
It's literally the main reason. He just likes seeing his little head in the corner of the screen.
him. But yeah, it's crazy to see what it all has. And I mean, there's gonna be players that we've never even heard of, and they're gonna be in the portal too. They're gonna be like, well, this was Notre Dame's seventh string running back, but he's not here either. So we're on to the ninth string
Well,
running back.
my only prediction is this is only going to get so much worse following next year if they don't find a way to regulate, because we kicked the 12 team playoff. And it's one thing that we're seeing, like all the big names that are in the portal right now. It's essentially the top 10 quarterbacks are all in the portal going to another top 10 school.
Yeah,
Well, how much does that change when, if there's 12 and this is top 10 schools fighting for, traditionally 4 spots on the line. Well, now it jumps to 12. So are you going to get the kids that, like, example, Miami of Ohio quarterback Blaine Gabbert's little brother? Yeah, he's at Miami. What's to say, he's a solid quarterback? What's to say he does not enter the portal because he can go to one of the 20th best teams in the country?
they have a shot.
Be- because realistically, the following year, hey, they got a shot.
Yeah,
All we got to do is make the 12.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that's very possible to see. It's
Where I would expect the number is going to grow. That when more spots are on the line, you're going to have way more people moving because of the opportunity. That, oh, this team finished just outside the top 25. If I go there, I could probably get them in the 12.
and you already seen it this year, with the first day of the transfer portal being open, that it broke a record already. It was like 1,152 students entered the transfer portal. Like,
Because there's no longer 4 spots up for grabs. Now there's 12.
yeah, it's
We're now I realistically, mathematically have a shot by going to one of these other programs.
and it's just crazy to even think about that number of like how astronomical it is when you got 133 teams that are in the FBS to play this division of football, and you have over 1,000 students on the first day leaving. So that's just giving you an idea already of how many of these bowl games are going to be second and third and fourth stringers out there playing for their team instead of the guys that got them there because of a thing like this 12-man playoff, that possibility of going somewhere that's going to get in, having that recognition. Because you know what? If you're trying to make a brand for yourself, the more you're on television, the more of a brand you're going to make. It's hard to follow along sometimes when you don't see people on TV constantly. Hey, we were just talking, and Jackrabbits are on my television right now playing Villanova. So,
Well, I think, like, what did I see? The perfect example is what was it? Coastal Carolina's quarterback, Grayson McCall. Grayson McCall has been like a 4-year starter at Coastal Carolina, and they've had their own little run of being successful. They cracked the top 25, got pretty high a couple of years ago, and it's like, oh, Grayson McCall expected potentially transferring to UCF because that conference is a little weak, and maybe they can get in on the Power 5 bid for the top 12.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely a possibility to kind of look at. I mean, who would it?
Traditionally, that would be someone you would not expect to move. He's already been there 4 years, a 4-year starter. He's got 1 year eligibility left. He's going to jump to another bigger program and a Power 5 because he believes that Power 5 has a shot cracking the 12.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, they're like traditionally, like we've talked about Colt Brennan on this show. Colt Brennan is one of those quarterbacks that would have instantly been a great transfer portal type quarterback just because he spent all those years at Hawaii just lighting up the scoreboard, and people were just kind of like, "Wow, Hawaii football. Let's watch this shit. Like, it's cool."
He was one of the guys that I just remember, like, being in middle school and high school and being like, he's gonna be so good in the NFL, and
Yeah,
like he was undrafted because you
yeah.
just couldn't, like,
He
put
was
the me-
small.
yeah, you just couldn't as a kid, you just couldn't analyze, like, the metrics that he's never going to work out.
Yeah,
But you watch him throw 75 touchdowns a year, and you're just convinced he's going to be Tom Brady.
yeah. I mean, same thing with Tim Tebow.
RIP to Colt Brennan, by the way.
Yeah. Same thing with Tim Tebow. I mean, we all thought like, oh man, Tebow in the NFL is going to be the greatest thing for our fantasy football teams, and I mean, no, He just
No,
that just wasn't the game that was meant for him. He was meant to be a college football quarterback, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's why so many of these guys don't end up making it when they get drafted. Why a lot of number one picks that might go to the Bears or something don't end up doing well. So, but uh, yeah, it's just going to continue to get crazy. It's to the point where you can't even keep up with it because it's just all the time, every minute, every hour, somebody else. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another quarterback go today. Um, and then once all these quarterbacks go, you're going to start seeing the running backs kind of uh, go back. Joe, in the comments saying college football quarterback equal Caleb Williams. I am completely in with those sentiments there, man. Like, I am
yep.
so scared that the Bears are going to draft him because I just don't think that he's going to be an NFL quarterback.
I don't think he has the mental toughness to make it.
Yeah, I mean I could definitely be wrong on that, but that's the way that I'm feeling, and I kind of see a lot of the same things that we see with Justin Fields right now for the Bears, kind of be the same thing that Caleb Williams would bring to the Bears. Especially like I think Caleb Williams fumbled the ball 33 times in his college career. That's something that Justin Fields struggles with as well. I just like that's what I see in Caleb Williams, and it scares me because that's what his game is here in college football. I don't see how that develops into the NFL. It's just,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, with that, I mean, we'll continue to follow on with the transfer portal news as it continues to come out. We'll keep on reporting on the quarterbacks. Keep following us on social media for that as I kind of go through.
it's also shocking just the number of head coaches that have a decent team and roster, and how many coaches are just going to their starting quarterback and being like, hey, maybe you want to get out of here. It's
Yeah,
like a sign of like,
regardless,
I'm looking for someone else.
yeah,
I love you, you're great, but I think you'll be greater somewhere else.
yeah, yeah. That's a new age of college football. I mean, it's crazy to even think about. Like, I think about it in terms of Quinn Ewers possibly coming back with Texas, and what happens with this Arch Manning legacy? How long is he going to sit on the bench for? It's interesting to kind of think about because we thought for sure Arch Manning, like the way that he's been talked about for the last 5 years, granted who his family is, that we would have been seeing him as a day one starter. So
Mhm.
and yeah, we're not getting that from him. So uh other than that, we could go into what happened yesterday with the award show. Quite a few interesting awards in terms of who ended up receiving them. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me was that the Maxwell Award, which goes to the best player, ended up going to Michael Penix Jr. But then everything else that could possibly go to a quarterback, the Walter Camp Award, which is for Player of the Year, another Player of the Year award, the Davy O'Brien Award for Best Quarterback, and the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Best Upperclassman Quarterback. All those awards went to Jaden Daniels of LSU, who is projected to end up winning the Heisman. Uh, when that comes around in the next week or two, I know it's within the next couple of weeks that they announce the Heisman winner, but
I thought it was tonight.
is it tonight
I
already?
believe it's tonight.
After this game? Wow. Yeah, see, I always thought that it was later on in the season. Wow.
No, they usually do the award ceremony, and then I thought it's usually the next night they do Heisman.
Okay. So yeah, then you could end up seeing that tonight with Jaden Daniels, uh, possibly winning the Heisman, which is expected. I just find it interesting that Michael Penix Jr. did get the Maxwell Award, and then Jaden Daniels gets everything else, and it's just like, why did you get this award? Like, and why is there two player of the year awards? I don't understand it. And then there's a Heisman. Like, how many players of the year do we need?
Yeah, you and I were talking about this a little earlier. I just read the room on this and said it's because Michael Penix has had such an outstanding season. They got to give him something.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
you're expecting, and the only reason I say that is because if you look at Jaden Daniels' stats from this year, Do you remember 2019 when Joe Burrow ran away with the award because he put up like the best season in college football history?
Yeah.
Just quietly, Jaden Daniels broke all those records he set.
Yeah. I
And
was
like obviously they talked about him as being the Heisman favorite and everything, but they kind of leave out the fact like Joe Burrow swept that award in 2019. He was clearly the best quarterback, best player, having just the most outstanding season, and like Jaden Daniels quietly just beat that season.
yeah. I honestly I knew how good Jaden Daniels was watching him play earlier on in the season, and it just kind of all fell to the side because LSU lost 2 games, and when you lose
And
two games,
I think that's the difference, and where they're trying to make up with this is, LSU did not have as great of a season as Washington has had,
mhm,
but Jaden Daniels has been the better player. But
yeah,
you need to recognize the season that Michael Penix has had on his end, where I think they just had to give him something.
yeah, I get it. He did have. I guess you kind of have to look at too. He did have games that he had off days where Jaden Daniels really didn't have that, and Jaden Daniels even had that win against Missouri where he led them back and put up 49 points against that Missouri team, which finished the year ranked number 9, top of the line school this year. A really good program that only lost to that team, and I believe their other loss was to Georgia. So. No other losses for Missouri this year, and that was kind of LSU's shining moment of the season as they were unable to take down who was it, Alabama, and their what was their other loss that LSU had? Was that Florida State at the beginning of the season?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you know Brian Kelly losses for you. He kind of gets those ones. But yeah, Daniel's obvious. I knew he was a top of the line talent. I wouldn't have expected him for the Heisman a couple of weeks ago, just because of where LSU was, and despite how they ended the season, it just wasn't really in my mindset. And then I thought that when we were watching the Oregon Washington game last week, that the winner of that game was the Heisman winner for sure, and that just wasn't the case, as Daniels was kind of clear cut without. I think if Bo Nix wins that game, it's different, but Daniels ends up getting it because Bo Nix was unable to win that game, and they didn't really, because of those dud games that Penix has had, they didn't want to give him a Heisman.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head that I that's probably what it's just going to come down to, was the consistency of Jaden Daniels. Just put up the numbers every single week. Michael Penix, great season, but a couple dud games in between. It goes to the most outstanding college football player, which goes down to consistency.
Yeah, I mean, do we possibly see them doing a swerve and Marvin Harrison Jr. wins the Heisman?
Oh, because it's just a toss up between the other two, so give it to the third guy.
Yeah,
I could see it.
uh, Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously won the Blitnikoff Award, I believe it is.
Yep.
That's the best wide receiver award, which was obviously clear cut in terms of that. If nobody really talks about too many of the other wide receivers out there, and for him to even be in the Heisman, wide receivers don't win the Heisman unless you're Tim Brown. So for him to even be able to be on the stage and have this opportunity is a big deal, because you don't see that kind of thing from a wide receiver in this day and age. It's always quarterbacks that are always on.
I mean, Devonte Smith was even a shock when he did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and then I remember obviously Manti Te'o finishing second, and you don't really see defensive players up there too much either. But that's one of the rare times that a defensive player was even up there. I believe Tyrone Matthew might have been a finalist when he was at
In
LSU,
but
because he was.
but a lot of that got him in because it wasn't his defensive play. That was the year that he was like the best kick returner in
Yeah,
college football, because it seemed like every other week, either a kickoff or a punt, he was taken to the house, on top of being like the most dominant player on the defensive side of the football
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
where those two kind of things, lightning in a bottle, got him up there.
Yeah, that's kind of like when I put down the bet earlier on in the season on Travis Hunter. That's kind of what I was expecting before he got hurt. I was just like, and I was semi kind of rooting for all that Colorado hype, despite not really rooting for it, then having the better sense of mind, knowing that it wasn't going to continue to go as good as it started. Um, and I constantly reiterated that. But at the same point, I was like, yeah, I'm going to throw $10 down on Travis Hunter because he does a little bit of everything and he does it all very well. And that's
Yeah.
kind of where my mindset was. And it's one of those things where, like, if it's not a quarterback, like, save your money, don't even put it on anyone. It's just not going to change, and it might happen once or twice in the rest of our lifetimes, but that's going to just be because college football is an ever-changing landscape, as we are seeing right now with everything that we've been talking about, and we haven't even really got in too much into the conference realignment and what that's all going to look like. As we'll probably break that down as we look for things to talk about in February and beyond going into next season. But um, yeah, it's kind of just lost my train of thought.
It's that time of the year. I mean, we're in between the bowl games. We're mainly talking about awards and players today.
Yeah. Other awards that we saw given out over the last week and yesterday, Brock Bowers wins the best tight end. I don't think any shocker there. And that's with
No.
him even being out for 3 or 4 games. Uh, Big one that I do want to shout, best defensive player, the Bronco Nagurski Award, going to Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, who led the nation this year with 7 interceptions, a lot of big ones that I'll remember. It was fun watching him play all season, being a Notre Dame fan who the only game that I missed was the Stanford game at the end of the season because it wasn't on any of the television stations out here. Damn Pac-12 network. That's why you're dying.
As expected, Iowa's punter got the Ray Guy Award.
Yeah, I mean, for the amount of times that guy had a punt, he obviously deserved it.
Runaway, just
Yeah.
absolute runaway.
Um, Peyton Wilson, linebacker for North Carolina State, a Dave Doran guy, won the Bednarik Award. An interesting player here I'm going to kind of look more into, as he was just all over the place this season. He finished 5th in total tackles, and he
It, if anyone is unfamiliar with just how good of a player he is, all you have to do is find the clip from last night when they gave him the award. The 30-second clip of just his season is him basically running sideline to sideline, chasing every single person down, picking off passes, returning them to the house, like busting through coverage and just taking the quarterback down when you don't think there's a single chance. Like it, I think it was only 30 or 45 seconds long, and it was like one of the most impressive like highlight tapes I've ever seen.
Yeah, the kid's a stud. He was able to do a little bit of everything. He even had 3 interceptions as a linebacker, which isn't typical, especially for the amount of games that you do play in college compared to what you play in the NFL. So very Brian Urlacher like player in terms of the way he's get over to the sidelines and plays middle linebacker in general. It's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with his career going forward.
There was like 2 or 3 highlights that when the play starts, you watch and you're just like, oh, not a chance. And he comes through and he takes him down for a loss.
Yeah, that's everything that you want to see. So definitely going to be someone to kind of look forward to watching, and of course, got to just once again shout out Dave Doran and IU guys. So, way to get him there, coach. And what else did we get? Obviously, he won the best linebacker award. The best lineman award went to I can't even say it. It's Latu from UCLA, which I don't watch a lot of UCLA football, but I did hear this kid's name a lot this season. In terms of just watching any award show or highlight shows or anything at all after the week, like this kid was a monster. He had 21 and a half tackles for a loss, including 13 sacks. So definitely a player to look forward to. I think that he is pretty high up in terms of the draft board. Um, I've just kind of seen his name everywhere without having too much ability to watch him, as UCLA is always one of those 9:30 start teams.
Yeah, the one thing the NCAA does do right is give there's very specific awards, but they're like cool awards when you see what goes behind it. Like Georgia's wide receiver Lad McConkey won like the service award, and it was when you went into it, it showed like dude basically has a 4.0 GPA at school, is one of the best wide receivers on that team, and then like they show all his work outside of football in the community, and it's like all the camps with kids with disabilities, like one on one, and he's like out there in the community being active, enjoying the time. Like those are cool little awards you like to see, because that's like, yeah, no, that guy deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I saw there a player from the Air Force, I believe, won like the best award for safety or best safety in all college football. And it's just like, well, I didn't even know who this kid was. And you get that opportunity to kind of like get the highlights and see and be like, damn, dude, this guy's good. I mean, I'll be kind of more in tune with a lot of this stuff as I go forward, because I'll be helping out with On Tap's NFL draft board this year for the Chicago Bears. So kind of breaking that down, and I'll be taking a specialty at looking at the wide receivers. So I'll be writing quite a few articles on what wide receivers are going into the draft, as well as kind of just being a little versed in all the top prospects going out there. So definitely going to be starting to do a lot more homework on that. Is, you know, I sit here all day and watch 3 televisions and of college football, and I know a lot of the players, but in terms of like a lot of these top end prospects and stuff, you get these guys from San Diego State, and San Diego State hasn't even been on television yet. It's like you've never seen them on television before. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like what's cool about seeing these awards as well, is like you get that opportunity to get these introductions to a lot of players from schools that really don't get the television time that a lot of the bigger schools do. Um,
Well, I mean, it was like the same thing with the Lou Groza Award or whatever last night. The Miami of Ohio kicker got it. Not
yeah,
like not a big program, but the dude missed a kick
and
all year.
it was in the
And
freaking championship game.
yeah, but they still won.
Yeah. Lucky enough, because or else we would have been coming after you for that kick.
Yeah,
But
no, I still hate the Western Michigan kicker. That year that they made the Cotton Bowl
yeah.
versus Wisconsin. I took the spread, and it was 8, and he missed the extra point. He missed the extra point, so it ended at 9.
Oh man, yeah,
So
that's the most brutal way to lose a bet.
that kid's still on my shit list.
Yeah, I have those players too. Kind of like Mike Evans might blow up and beat the shit out of my fantasy teams, but he's also someone that whenever I draft him to my fantasy teams, it's the worst season that he's had, or he was hurt, or just never on the field. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm done with you. You can't be on my teams anymore.
Oh, you mean like last year when I drafted Russell Wilson when he got traded to Denver, and I was like, oh, he's gonna cook, and then yeah, we all know how that turned out.
Absolutely. Another couple notable awards: the most versatile player, Travis Hunter, obviously, no surprise there, even with the injury. Award that I really do enjoy seeing, and I think it's a really cool award, is the Burlsworth Award Trophy, which goes
Yeah,
to the best player who began career as a walk-on. And
I literally watched that movie like 2 days ago on Netflix. And the low key Grader is a very good like no name movie. There's a reason it trends on Netflix all the time. If you actually watch it, it's a great movie. But yeah, the Burlsworth one is awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool award, and it went to Cody Schrader from Missouri, the running back there, who had an outstanding season, almost 1,500 yards rushing, got Missouri to be number 9, not your typical top 10 football program. kind of a shame that the 12-man playoff starts next year, because it might not be the most plausible thing for Missouri to continuously have seasons like this. But they were a great football team this season, and he was a big part of that. And for him to be a walk-on, such a cool award. I really
Well,
do enjoy it.
it's crazy when they went into his story, because like he started at Division 2 and was a stud at Division 2, and it's like he walked on. He was one of the best players at the FCS level for the 2 years he was there, and it's like no one wanted him.
Yeah,
So screw it. I'm gonna go pave my own way, walk on, and look at the season you had. 100% worthy and deserving of that award.
yeah. And he obviously, like, just that's kind of what the award is there for, is to kind of make that kind of stand out in terms of, wow, like, you could do anything if you put your mind to it. So, and that's kind of what this guy did, and just kind of took it into his own um mindset. You got to have some type of crazy mindset in order to do that. You got to have some strong willpower in order to just be like, well, I'm just going to up and leave, not get paid anything to do this, not even get a scholarship where my college is at least free, and be like, I want to make it in Division 1. And there it goes. So, cool for him. Bo Nix did get an award for the top scholar athlete. So, had to get him something as well, just to keep everybody happy, I guess.
Yeah, uh, I was just laughing at a bunch of these guys that you can clearly see the generational change, where when we were growing up watching these awards, everyone's super well spoken, like has everything to say, the questions are prepared, they're ready to go. And then like now that we're in the new social media age where people don't really talk, it's like, Bo, how do you feel about this award? It's great.
I think that he
Just
I think
it was like 90% of the guys that they interviewed last night was like they would ask the most generic question just to lead it off, and they'd get like a one word response, and it's like, okay, on to the next.
cool, great. Yeah, I can kind of see like Bo Nix in general just kind of struggling, because I don't think that he's really going to get over that loss last week for a little bit
Well,
yet. So,
I think the one that stood out to me was Ollie Gordon for winning the best running back, the Doak
yeah, I didn't
Walker.
want to mention that because it's bullshit. Audric Estime should be the Doak Walker winner.
I laughed because he's from Oklahoma State, and then they got Barry Sanders to give him like a whole little message, and they're like, "Wow, Ollie, what do you think about that?" And he was like, "That was super cool." And like Barry Sanders, arguably one of the best college running backs of all time, that played at your school, just gave
Yeah,
you a shout out that you're one of the best running backs in company with him in that program. And you're just like, that was cool.
yeah,
And like that was it. That was it. It wasn't like Barry Sanders gave you a personalized message for winning this award. That was cool.
yeah.
And then they had to pivot so fast to another question. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I guess in that moment, like, you don't know what to say, kind of thing. But it is also too, like, it is the social media age, and
That and Mike Gundy not saying a word. Mike Gundy just sat there and shook his head up and down for like 30 seconds.
nice. I was unable to watch the awards show. I was kind of just following along as it went because I was at bowling last night. But it does sound like I missed some entertaining stuff in terms of these little interviews.
That was just the funniest part, because obviously all the guys are deserving, but like I feel like most of them pre-know or at least notified ahead of time that like, hey, you won the award. Like that, like the Air Force guy or whatever, he knew that like the coaches told him a couple days prior, and like there was a whole celebration with the team. So
Yeah,
it's like you got this award. You know you're gonna ask questions. You have time to prepare, and all of them just go on and it's cold answers.
yeah. Because, well, Xavier Watson, we knew about Xavier Watts about 4 or 5 days ago as well. As a couple of them were kind of announced beforehand. So, yeah, that is kind of like, where's the PR person to prep you for this? Like,
Literally, like, you're telling me there's not even someone that, like, that's their major at your school that can tell you? You don't even need a professional. You could get one of the PR students.
You give me water. Um, yeah, absolutely. And that kind of wraps up the awards in general. I mean, quite a couple of other ones out there, but that's the main ones. And then we'll see what ends up happening with the Heisman later on tonight. And um,
Also, did you see? I'm kind of excited that after the Heisman, that new 30 for 30 comes out about the 1997 Heisman race.
I did not see that that was even a
They,
thing.
that comes out tonight. That's out at I think it comes out 9 o'clock tonight.
I'm gonna have
I
to,
want
yes, I'll set the recorder. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's gonna and it's focusing on the 1997 Heisman race, which was Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, and Randy Moss.
awesome. Yeah, I did not know that was a thing, so I'm definitely gonna have to set the recorder here in a minute for that because I honestly I don't watch too much of the Four Letter Network, so I kind of miss out on seeing commercials and stuff for them because I only do watch it when there's sports on. Otherwise, I don't really go there for my sporting news. I'd rather put on some of the other stations. Like all week, I've been watching Hot Stove every morning when I get home from work because we get this Shohei Otani news.
Hmm.
Um, looks like you're kind of perturbed right now.
No, I got to move the chair for him real quick.
No problem. Uh, but yeah, we'll that kind of wraps up the awards segment here. One thing I do want to ask Ross when he comes back is just what his opinion is in terms of the college football playoff and how that all went
All right,
down.
we're good.
All right. One thing I wanted to ask you as we kind of transition out, me and Chris did our live reaction last Sunday, and I haven't really gotten your opinion on it in terms of how do you feel about what happened with Florida State not getting into the college football playoff?
So you know how I feel about Florida State, but all season long I expected them to stumble somewhere along the way. They didn't.
Nope.
13-0 is 13-0. And I get what the NCAA did, but I think you need to look. Is there a one behind a team's record, or is there a zero?
Yep. I agree.
There's a zero, and plain and simple. I'm just gonna keep this super simple opinion on: was Alabama one of the best programs in the country coming down the stretch? Absolutely, they were. So was Texas. Texas beat Alabama. Texas is in. I think that 4 spot should have went to FSU, and I think there's a 1 versus there's a 0.
Yeah. That's kind of what mine
I,
and Chris's reaction
I,
was as well.
and I get it that Alabama won the big game and that the 4-letter network wants to keep an SEC school in there, but there was almost no option where you could leave Texas out with that Alabama victory. So I think they kind of had their hands tied, where they were afraid to be taboo and leave the SEC out.
Yeah, I that's what I think it honestly came down to as well. And it's unfortunate. It's kind of like Monday Night Football this week. We heard we saw Trevor Lawrence go down for the Jaguars, and someone made the joke. With the Trevor Lawrence injury, the NFL has decided that the Jaguars are no longer eligible to make the postseason this year. It's just like because just making fun of the idea, like, well, because the quarterback got hurt, we're not going to put them into the playoffs anymore, even though their defense was really stout. They won 2 games without the quarterback, including an ACC championship game. Played a better team than who Texas had to play in terms of their championship game last week, as Louisville's a better team than Oklahoma State, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of clear cut. And they went out there still, and Florida State took care of business still. Did they have the toughest schedule? No. But they also beat an SEC team earlier on in the season that a lot of people thought was going to be a national championship contender in LSU. Like, you don't you look at it all the way down, even without Jordan Travis, like you can't punish the team for an injury when they continue to go out there and perform without him. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you win a football game or any game for that matter. Winning's winning. It's like one of my favorite quotes ever is Fast and the Furious, where Dominic is just like, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. And that's literally what I keep going to here with this.
And to be clear, I think Texas should have been in no matter what because of the Alabama victory. When you looked at how Alabama played down the stretch, they were one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country the past several weeks. I think there was no way you could leave Texas out because Texas was the one team that took them down.
Yeah.
I think Texas was for sure needed to be the 3 in there. It's the fact that I think Florida State should have been the 4.
Yeah.
But
exactly
then
where I'm at.
it did make me laugh. I felt bad for Florida State. It did make me laugh though that I saw someone like fake wrote an article and they're like, CFB committee leaves Florida State out over Alabama. Click, here's why. And then when I clicked it, it just took me to YouTube and it was a clip of Dave Chappelle because fuck them, that's why.
that's that's good. I mean, honestly, that's no better way to put it. And that's, I mean, they're even talking now of them suing. Like Coach Norvell wants to sue the NCAA for this. Like they're just very upset. I don't think anything will come of it, except thank God that this isn't going to be a problem next year, except for when the number 13 team in the nation's bitching about not getting in. But it's just it's honestly, it was complete and utter shock. I was sitting here and had it on, and all of us were reacting to it. And I was like, Chris, you want to go live right now? Let's go live right now. And that's what we did. We did a half-hour little show, just doing what we're doing right now, talking about how it all went down. And I just did want to get your opinion in on there because
my whole family
haven't heard one the other way around yet. Like I have heard from some people like talking to me on the side, like, yeah, I think they did it right. This is the way it should be. Like it's better football game, but I didn't really get a great opinion as to why. Like make it make sense to me. And I don't think anybody really can besides, well, let's look at it this way. If you look at the top 20 teams in the nation, 17 of them are in the Big Ten or the SEC next year. If you look at the top 15, 14 of them are in the Big Ten or SEC next year. The one outlier is Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, the ACC isn't their big money grabber anymore. The ACC puts football games on the CW network with the Live Tour. So they don't care, It's just, it's non-existent television. The only reason why I find those games is if I bet on them, and the same thing happened with Notre Dame basketball last week.
It's plain and simple. It's going to be the money influence with the 4-letter network and how much money they draw out of the SEC alone.
Yeah,
they just couldn't find a way to leave one of those teams out. They needed the SEC in there, or they're going to lose a huge amount of viewership.
Yeah, that's perfect way to put it down. Sorry, I got a little bug there in my stomach or in my chest. It is better viewing for us, and that's what we are going to get out of these football games and possibly a better championship game. But all the time, these games are blowouts. And I think that's the one thing that they wanted to change was we're always watching that college football semifinal, and it's 2 blowout games normally. I think they wanted to change that up, and that's what they were looking to avoid here is good chance Florida State comes into one of these games and they get blown out. Even without knowing who's going to be playing in these bowl games, they came in as a 14-point underdog to Georgia in the bowl game that they got into. So that's what they really wanted to avoid here. They didn't want to put Florida State against Michigan because then they're looking at Michigan winning the game 35-17, and that's not what they want to see. They want every opportunity to get a 35-31 football game, two teams going back and forth. And that I understand as well, but just because the one player isn't there, you still can't do it to them that way. And that's just,
Although the Michigan reaction was classic
yeah,
when
they
it
were not happy.
when they saw that big A pop up, just the collective room goes silent. Oh,
Yeah, they were not wanting that game to happen at all. So hopefully they kick in the gear. Otherwise we might be seeing Jim Harbaugh getting the heck out of town, which I think might happen either way. But um other than that, we do have a lot of bowl games on the docket. I think there's like 40 something now. We were able to get James Madison into a bowl game because not enough teams qualified, which is awesome. At least we get to see James Madison play. I think that's one of the few games I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bet on this one because I feel like James Madison's going to come out there and just roll this team no matter who the hell plays for him. But like, I can't even like sit there and break down the who to bet on for those games in any sort of way because I don't know who the hell's playing.
yeah. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing with the transfer portal. It could be a completely different team. We were talking about, your team could be 10-2. Oh, your quarterback's in the portal. Well,
Yeah.
maybe this 8-4 is going to come kick your ass.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do get into the bowl season next week. So next Saturday, we got a 10 a.m. Central Time game, a 1:15 game, a 2:30 game, a 4:45 game, a 6:30 game, an 8:15 game. So a lot of college football to kick off the bowl season next week. I think we got 3 NFL games next Saturday as well. So football will be completely back, not just the Army Navy game in terms of next week. And you'll kind of see that going forward over the next couple of weeks. No real like major games to highlight. We did have an article put out about the local teams make it in the bowl games. We will see mine and Ross's alma mater, Northern Illinois, take on Arkansas State in the Camellia Bowl on December 23rd. And we'll also see Utah take on Northwestern in the Las Vegas Bowl on December 23rd. So again, 2 of the in-state schools on that day, which awesome season from Northwestern. Head coach getting the Big Ten Coach of the Year award. Well deserved after that program winning 1 game last season. Head coach Pat Fitzgerald being fired to begin the year and having to just take over 3 weeks to go before the season started and getting this team to a 7-5 point after a very slow start. So awesome for Northwestern to get into a bowl game.
If you told me at the beginning of the year when all of this happened, you gave me 2 options that Northwestern goes 7-5 or Northwestern goes 0-12, I would have taken the under so hard.
Yeah,
that's just how incredible of a job he did for the time frame he was given, for all the circumstances. 100% deserving. Glad he got the award and got the recognition.
Yeah, and it's not very often that an interim coach gets the job. And he got the job, which that's awesome to see, and I'm glad that they're in this bowl game. We'll see what Utah team shows up. It could be a tough one for them to win, but that's one of the more better matchups to watch as well, which we're not allowed to bet on in-state schools here in Illinois, so it's one where you could kind of sit back and just root for the school that you want to win and enjoy it. And I definitely will when that game comes around on December 23rd.
And then we'll watch our alma mater, but I don't know what game to expect, as half our team has already entered the portal.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. And then Notre Dame also, we're all fans of Notre Dame here. They play on December 29th, a Friday at 1 p.m. So glad I'll be able to watch as they play in the Sun Bowl against Oregon State. We kind of mentioned it earlier. We don't even know who's going to be playing for either of these teams, but I would think Notre Dame's going to have the edge in this one because Oregon State whole team pretty much jumped into the transfer portal already. Not really sure.
Even their coach.
Yeah, the coach is there too. He's gone as well. So, and then we do get a good bowl game that same night that Notre Dame plays on the 29th between Missouri and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. So definitely one to look forward to there. Um, and then the next day you got Ole Miss and Penn State in the Peach Bowl, and Georgia versus Florida State in the Orange Bowl. And then they take a break from the NFL on Sunday, and then January 1st is when you get all the major bowl games that remain. You got Wisconsin versus LSU, which that's not really one of the bigger ones, but you got that one in the Relia Quest Bowl, Liberty versus Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, which be interesting to see how Liberty performs against whoever plays for Oregon. But I'm sure a lot of those Liberty kids are going to be showing up for that one. Um, glad.
I will say for football traditionalists, that Peach Bowl is going to be awesome. If you like classic college football, classic Jersey matchup, getting Ole Miss versus Penn State.
Yeah, it is one of those things I do like. I always like watching games. Like I love watching the Cotton Bowl because for whatever reason, whatever team's playing it, the uniforms just look way better on that field. I don't know
Yep.
what it is. It's like just visually satisfying. So it's and like yeah, that's definitely another one with it. Um, and then the Citrus Bowl is Iowa versus Tennessee, so that's kind of interesting. And then the main bowl games, you got Alabama versus Michigan and Texas versus Washington. Unfortunately for me, I have to go into work on January 1st at night, so I am not going to be able to watch the second bowl game in terms of the college football playoff. I'll be listening to it and I'll record it and go back and kind of watch it myself, but I am just so ticked off that I have to go into work just because I have to miss that football game. That's going to be, I might have to miss the end of the first one as well, which, completely sucks. And listening to it sometimes just isn't the same. I do enjoy listening to games, but oh man, I'm very upset. I requested off the 8th for the national championship game though.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, damn man, like how the hell am I supposed to just miss these bowl games? Like it feels just wrong and dirty, but I've never had to work on Christmas Day or January 1st like I do this year. So um definitely not something I want to do ever again after this year. Yeah. I'm actually like I'm super like beating myself up about the holidays because of the fact that I have to work those nights. um but yeah, other than that, like over the next couple of weeks or so, we'll kind of find some things to talk about between me and Chris getting in terms of the transfer portal. I will be getting a lot more involved in terms of the draft process and everything from there, but we'll be continuing to put out some episodes, probably a lot more Saturday, Sunday type stuff, just because that's when everything's going to be going on. Might get some Friday afternoon shows, and we'll just kind of keep following along in terms of our social media accounts. And we'll kind of keep you updated in terms of how we want to continue to go about the offseason in college football and breaking down these bowl games when we learn a little bit more of who might be playing in them, because it's really hard to analyze any of them besides those two big ones, because even that Georgia Florida State game, no idea who's going to be playing in those games.
Yeah.
It's impossible with the way that college football is. It isn't the way that it was 20 years ago. And things change, and that's kind of one of the unfortunate changes, is that the bowl season just isn't what it used to be, and there's way too freaking many of them.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
So over under today of the Navy Army game is 27.5. What you taking, Ross?
I'm gonna take the under. I'm seeing an old fashioned ground and pound.
Yeah, I think I am too. I see that DraftKings has like a same game parlay boost, and I'm like, what free things can I put into a same game parlay for this? I don't know, but I'll kind of go through that and put a little bit of something.
Loop in, like if there's a pass attempts or something. Take the over and draw the parlay a little higher.
Yeah, there you go.
It's gonna be like over under combined pass attempts 10.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I'll kind of see what they have out there and maybe make a little fun one. But other than that, enjoy it. It's a fun one to watch. It's in Foxborough. It's what is it, like the prestige, the pageantry, the whatever you want to call it or however you want to say it. It's definitely one that will be on the TV, and I'll kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the game.
Yeah. Definitely excited to enjoy this game, especially after watching game day this morning. I don't know if you saw the kicking challenge,
No, I
but
missed the kicking challenge. I put it on a little late because I was watching soccer.
oh, the dude went to kick it and shanked it 4 feet to the right and smoked someone in the face. It was awesome.
That's like the third time this year that that's happened. It's awesome. Really bad idea.
The fact that they just have the fans line the whole way down, it's like watching a PGA event and you're just like, what if he were to shank this drive
Yes,
and
I
it
was
just
thinking about
goes
that.
4 feet into the crowd?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I honestly, one of the fellow on tap guys here, Ron, and I went golfing one day, and Ron, fuck, oh my god, I was probably standing, I was off to the right of him, and I was maybe like 2 feet in front of him behind the cart, and he hits his ball, and it literally just like line drives like right in my chest. Like it was hit so lightly because he completely missed the ball for the most part. But I'm like, how the hell do you even do that, man? And then I like, have a fear. And he hit me with his golf club once. Like this, don't go golfing with Ron. Like,
Good to know. I will note this.
um, but yeah. Jeez, thinking back of it, man. Oh man, what a time. With that, follow along on the socials. I'll probably be a little bit involved with the Army Navy game later on today, and keep a lookout for some articles, and we'll start breaking down what's to come in terms of college football and next season and these bowl games going forward.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks again, Ross, for joining in. This was College Football on Tap. Everyone enjoy their weekend, and we'll see you soon.